Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Filup Molina, and this is Rogue Theory. It's a show where we dive into all kinds of nerdy things that are happening in the nerdosphere, and we bring nerds here to theorize it and get weird about it. And we have some right here. We got Erik Voss, our own boy, hometown hero.
Hi, that's me.
Yeah. And then from MTV's
Are You the One?
Are You the One? We have Danny. Say your own last name.
Danny Prikazky.
Prikazky. Great. Yeah, he said it right. And then Angelica Tray from Twitch.
From Twitch.
In general.
Woo!
Yeah, you can find her on
Woo!
Twitch. Yay, they're here. Reminder that you can listen to Rogue Theory as a podcast, and all our stuff that's on podcast comes out earlier. So if you can't wait because you're really into this, then just get on the podcast version. Or if you drive places and need things to hear. Guys, on this episode we have things about, we're going to hit Spider-Man again. We are also going to talk about some Star Trek news. And we'll do our road questions at the end. But to start things out, we're actually going to hit up, I believe we're all done now with Stranger Things.
Oh,
yeah.
Season 3.
Yeah.
Real quick, can I get a Stranger Things theme song?
Wait, I thought we were all riffing. Like acapella?
No, Stranger Things.
We all take a different synth sound.
Yeah.
Right.
Harmonize, ready?
Strange.
I think that's the sound of a podcast listener going, I think I'm going to skip to another episode.
I'm done.
Let's move on from this.
Great. What'd you guys think of the ending specifically of Stranger Things? How did it leave you feeling?
I love that Stranger Things ends every season with a big cliffhanger to force us to wonder about what's coming next season.
Yeah.
And for me, spoiler warning for people who haven't seen all 8 episodes again, but seeing the Demogorgon show up again isn't the big question. To me, it's who is the American in the other cell. To me, it's got to be Hopper.
Gotta be Hopper. Right.
Everyone thinks it's Hopper, but I feel like it could probably be, I don't know, maybe someone
Serena
from
Williams.
season 2.
Yeah,
Serena Williams, totally.
It could be
From
Serena
season 2.
Williams because she's a famous American known abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
and
was
you don't want to
alive
let
at
her
the
out
time.
of that cell because
Yeah.
she's got a killer overhand serve.
Yeah. Plus, if there's like a Russian sleeper agent,
Yeah,
come on.
she's
Whoa.
She's experienced internationally, and
Yeah.
she's world renowned, and no one would question it. Here's my hot take on this, guys. So I think with Stranger Things, every season is dealing with all these 80s references, and they probably have a checklist of ones that they haven't done yet. And my thinking is, if this is the 4th and final season, because these kids are getting old, how much more can you get out of them? What if we time jump to the end of the decade, and we have something like Flight of the Navigators thing, which has not been done yet. It's one of the 80s movies.
I feel like there's been a hint of Flight of the Navigator, actually.
Where a kid goes missing.
In there. But that's interesting. Well, that, and then also just the way that they build their stuff or something. There's like aesthetic choices from Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah.
But also, if you haven't seen Flight of the Navigator, what else from the 80s can they still mine?
I think they could just keep riffing off of Neverending Story. Honestly,
Just permanently?
all
They
of
just ride
season
a
4.
Demogorgon.
I really want to see Mike get super into Oingo Boingo.
Okay. Yeah, I dig it.
Right?
My pitch, even though they referenced it a little bit in season 1, I want to see. I mean, this is just me, but I'm into Poltergeist, and I'm into. E.T. has a lot of the same vibe, but Poltergeist is like a scarier version of E.T., where it's that thing that Stranger Things has always had is a little bit of the magic that hooks you even as a child, but then the thing that gives you nightmares and you're not allowed to watch E.T. anymore. I want them to have that vibe and specifically the
that
reason I
felt
say
very
Poltergeist.
personal. And then you're not allowed to watch E.T.
Yeah,
When you're
and they pull you
traumatized.
out of school for 6 months, and then you go to a different school. It's called a hospital, and then so Poltergeist
Zap,
has,
zap, zap,
zap, zap, ah! Okay.
Everyone knows this story.
You
Are
wake
you
up with a
okay?
beard.
Poltergeist has it's a sequel. It's not the best sequel, but they have one thing that could play in with the fact that the Byers family just moved away. In Poltergeist, it follows them. So it's Carol Ann goes and I believe lives with her aunt or something, or stays in some hotel or something, and so the poltergeist goes and finds her there. So it is interesting if maybe something can leave Hawkins it's happening in both locations or something.
It's not tied to a location, but rather it's tied to
a person.
But that
person.
makes me
Right.
that
Genius.
makes me ask a question though, because I feel like they did put into this season that the location is very important. Alexei Smirnov. talks about how like they had the key and that was one part of the equation and they needed to take it to a location. But obviously later on they were in some Russian prison camp at the end and had some sort of access to the Upside
Demogorgon
Down.
there potentially.
They have a number of these gates scattered around the world. It seems like throughout the season, the Mind Flayer's grudge against 11 is personal. So he's going to find her wherever she is.
Is it just a grudge, or is it a this is the one person who can stop me or find
obstacle.
me, or exactly? So I have to follow wherever 11 goes. It's interesting that 11 is the one that left. Also, I'll just throw out there that yes, it's like the Hellmouth kind of like it's underneath, but also they treated this season a lot like infection, and that's the idea right of Patient Zero going and like can take something and bring it. Do you guys know that rabies is not a thing in Europe?
What?
It's just not popular.
Why?
Like, oh, you got
you think
you're
all
all so
into
cool
rabies
at this
here?
party.
Yeah.
Oh,
Europe's
look,
like
it's Americans for an exchange student has
no
rabies. Oh, so cool.
But what if the Mind Flayer is actually in love with 11? It was
Magic.
building.
Like a wife?
It was building it
way of
for
showing
her.
affection.
Romeo and Juliet.
The entire season. We were building this for you. And then it just wanted a little smoocheroo at the end.
This is how we show love in the Upside Down.
Exactly.
We melt all your friends
This
and
is
we
actually-
turn ourselves into a
It's
bad
a love
monster.
story.
I'm going to take credit for all of this right now as being my theory for what's going to happen next season. Let's hear some other theories of places it can go, maybe spun off of a movie. You can go to Flight of the Navigator. Sorry to interrupt that.
Okay.
Well, like my idea for Flight of the Navigator is like seeing one of these characters as the same age that they are. Maybe we recast a lot of the characters.
Ooh, kind of like the Snap a little bit?
Yeah, a character goes missing. They're still young, but due to the different physics of the Upside Down, maybe they come back and they're all adults and they have to deal with either Will Byers, who used to be the immature one. Now he's super immature and he's still a kid.
You specifically saying we want to recast Will Byers?
No, I'm saying recast everybody else.
I will say that some people do want to recast Will Byers. Real quick, what were you going to say?
I'm just saying it was really, really bizarre towards the end of the new season to see Will was actually taller than his mother. Did anyone notice that?
Well, it was weird. The camera angle, he was taller than her, but also in his shot, he looked like he was like a giant that was like crushing Winona
he was like
Ryder.
hugging her. How
Maybe it's his
tall is
stand-in.
Winona?
I
This big.
weird hot take. I really wanted Will to be gay. And
Okay,
maybe that'll
not
come
a hot
out.
take.
Yeah, there's
There-
that
In
line.
fact, there's that question right
It's
there.
not my fault you don't like girls.
Yeah, you are a gay character, Will. You're gay. You're gay. You're gay. That line that he says.
Yeah! Oh my god,
Do you
I
guys
forgot
think that could
That's so
mean
weird.
that he
There's
might
that whole
be
scene
gay?
where you
My mind.
spot Will in a gay club, and he's just like a little awkward. He's like, "Oh, I'm just here playing D&D."
It's
Yeah.
so hard to
Three.
tell who's
Like-
gay in the 80s.
Yeah. What's interesting, actually, real quick on that note, I'm really into the fact that they made that character a lesbian.
Yeah.
Because that to me is the one thing. So I thought they did an amazing job recreating the 80s, specifically in the mall. It was just like a wave of nostalgia from that time. But the one thing that 80s pop culture doesn't have is gay culture being part of it. There was a lot of fear of gay culture, specifically in the 80s, worse than even before the 80s.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, it is related to the AIDS epidemic, but that also made it kind of like a threat instead. So now to go back, and it's almost revisionist history, but to be able to be like, yeah, there were still gay people in the 80s, probably the same exact number there are now. So no, I'm super into that, and I'm also into the idea of Will being gay. Just it feels like math wise.
Yeah, with a group
Totally.
that
It felt
size,
natural.
statistically, one of them
75% will be
Yeah.
gay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember with that scene too with Robin talking to Steve Harrington, and they were going through like after the drug trip, right? I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be a love scene. I hate this already. And then
After they puked, they're gonna make out.
Robin dropped that bomb, and I was like, yes. And Steve handled it so well, and it felt so good.
Yeah.
When Robin like leaned into her arms and was like, "Oh man, I hate that this is happening," I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she got a boyfriend? What's going on?" I'm like, I don't know
No.
why I didn't jump to that.
She has a crush on Tammy.
yeah,
all along.
I mean, who doesn't have a crush on?
What is
Tammy?
great
Well,
about
I heard
that
she sings poorly.
is that it takes it away from Steve like allowing her to be a love interest to him, where he's like, it's like the whole story is it's impossible, I could never like her, and then like her arc is that Steve's willing to like her by the end. That's what it would have been if it was just as simple as that. So I like that. Real quick on the your pitch for the Flight of the Navigator
Time
version
jump,
of it.
yeah.
And a time jump. It's also what I love about it. When you read it, and also even the TV movie version of it, and what its sequel is going to be with Bill Hader and
talking about Stephen King's.
It just gets, Oh yeah, I know. I'm just being real vague.
He's gonna get there.
Yeah, I love that.
The
That is
Thing.
great. Yeah. not The Thing, which was a big part of this season.
It was.
But the idea of them coming back as adults and having to like reseal it, that's one of the few ways that I think you can get away with. Once again, it's open and they got to deal with it again. But what if it's open 30 years later or something?
Okay.
And maybe a young Will or something.
Like, that is making me think about Mad Men, which is definitely a less nerdy show, but they always talked about, especially towards the end of their series, like, this is a show that exists in the 60s, right? And we don't want to go into the 70s. It just wouldn't work for us. And this is a show that exists in the 80s. But I kind of want to see them do like a little bit of a Boogie Nights thing, you know? Like, I don't know if y'all have seen Boogie Nights, but the scene where it's like they had the New Year's for like going from the 70s into the 80s. And I guess Boogie Nights had a very different opinion of the 80s than like the Duffer Brothers did. But like, I
still
would
has monsters.
A lot more blow, a lot more porn, and a lot more random suicides at parties.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool for them to be like, hey, remember how great the 80s were? Ready for the shitstorm that was the 90s? Because this is what we think of that garbage.
Yeah, or two timelines,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's a little Lost style.
Yeah.
We get forward and flashback, and maybe even a little bit of the Constant from Lost, but also Slaughterhouse 5, Unstuck in Time. You're linked, and you're actually having to do things at the same time in both timelines in order to solve it. So time in general is something that Stranger Things hasn't really played with.
Yeah, and pretty much every period show does some version of this. I mean, The Americans had a time jump of a couple years, and the final season took place during the START negotiations at the end of the decade, whereas most of it was set in 1983, 1984. So this isn't unprecedented. It's just jump to the interesting points of the decade, and the end of the 80s was very interesting with the collapse of the Soviet Union. What if something happens where the Soviet Union security collapses, just like there was all these rumors that the Soviets lost their nukes, so there's missing rogue nukes around there, rogue theory. What if there's a rogue Demogorgon that the Soviet Union, because of its collapse and because of events like Chernobyl, have allowed these things to be released into the world?
The thing you're talking about too, this Demogorgon that's over there in Russia, did we talk about this yet? The idea that might not be in present time.
Right, that could be in the past, that could be before all this is set, and
or
that is
way
Demogorgon,
after.
or way into the.
Well, didn't the scene say 10 years later or something like that?
Did it say? It did
Did
say
it?
something. Or
It just said the name
What
of
did
the
it say?
city.
One
It just
year
said
later?
Kamchatka, Russia.
I thought it was just
Oh,
the
it
name
just
of
said
the
the-
place.
That's
what I
Oh.
for
remember.
the place.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't tell you when.
if Jim Hopper were in that cell as the American, he'd just be an old man, and this is actually really
Or
far
it's
in the
not
future.
Jim Hopper. It could
God.
be any other American. It could
Jim
be.
Hopper as an old man is Jim Hopper
just
present.
It could be one of the
Poor Jim.
precursors to 11, because we know she met 8 in season 2, and there are all these other experiments before she got
I'm
there.
pretty
11
sure
and a
they
half.
decided that never happened.
Yeah, I
Seven?
think we
What
all,
episode
okay.
7?
That'd
we
be
all
alright.
collectively
Decided
decided.
that she never went to Chicago.
Yeah,
or wherever
let's,
it was.
what was
weird.
it, like season or episode 7?
Yeah,
season
it was.
2?
There was a 15-minute recap of last season, and there's not one shot. Or other, she just comes back looking like was it Rufus from Bill and Ted? Remember,
Yeah.
like
George
I'm from the
Carlin,
future now.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, George Carlin.
I think they touched on it, but we all just decided to forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was-
I'm wondering they might be like, you know what? Let's just leave it at 11, which is also why I don't think they would recast.
All right. But talking about Russia, talking about the scene at the end, the cliffhanger. I mean, before we consider who the American is, we have to talk about, like, if the American is Hopper, how's Hopper alive? Could Hopper be alive?
Well, the same way 11 ended up being alive. You get sucked into the Upside Down,
That's
right,
right.
obliterated.
And then
You show
they
up-
got him back.
Or you show up through another one of those gate portals that they already have.
Right.
And there's.
I also feel like I'd have to rewatch it in slow mo like I do everything else, but I feel like there's a chance that what was creating that barrier for him of why he couldn't cross through? There was like that spinning blue fan, basically,
Right,
like,
right,
of
yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
I feel like the guys that we did see melt were on the other side of it. It's possible
Right.
that protected him from
And
the blast.
I mean, come on, like, we don't see Hopper die.
We don't see a
these-
body either.
Right, we don't see a body. We see these other folks get vaporized. We see sort of like their ashes and remains. We don't get a single shot that even hints at that for Hopper.
It would be the kind of thing where he like makes like last second eye contact with Winona Ryder and then like
Yeah, just a little
Indiana
bit of,
Jones.
like,
Sarah Connor against the fence, turning into
That would
Ash
really
Raiders of the
traumatic.
Lost Ark style.
Yeah.
Dude.
Could you imagine if we saw that? That would be so traumatic.
Right.
I mean, that woman is ruined already.
Yeah.
Well, yes,
Are we talking about Winona Ryder or the
Don't,
character?
don't
Will's
date
mom.
Joyce is what we've all learned from
Yeah.
this show, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The
That's true.
editing of that
Don't love
sequence
Joyce.
was
The moment they have a
deliberate.
date.
Yeah, like Winona Ryder closes her eyes, looks away from the blinding light. That was all the choice, so that she didn't look at the
Right,
moment
and then
it
he
happened.
goes, hee hee hee.
Then he- yeah.
and he runs
I mean,
away.
you have to. It
David
seemed like
Copperfield.
it was a big jump to go from the edge of the platform into the rift, into the gate.
Not if someone on the other side is a lasso.
Yes.
Excellent.
But here's the question: is the upside down better than death? Because the upside down sounds really, really scary.
I think everything is better than death.
Absolutely take the upside down.
You would rather be in the scary hell place, running from
No, it's just
monsters.
it's just ashy.
Life is full of possibilities.
No, there's monsters over there. Will was really
there's some monsters
sad.
over here.
Who knows what's in
Okay.
death, though?
All
Just
the monsters are in front
one
of us,
giant
right?
monster that just keeps sticking up his nose the whole time.
Yeah.
That's where I'm headed. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad things.
All right, so maybe Jim's over there,
That's what I'm thinking.
and he's gonna be even more traumatized than he already is.
Oh,
when
yeah,
he
yeah.
comes back.
All right, I'm gonna scope this way down
Okay.
to just asking, what do you guys think is gonna happen with that Demogorgon over in Russia?
So I have a question about physics in this world, and it
Sounds like not an answer.
No. It's
go
gonna
ahead.
get towards an answer, but like
Uh-huh.
in the first series, wasn't the Demogorgon sort of a planeswalker? Like it could go between the upside down and
Was it
our
able
reality.
to flash back and forth from it? I
Not
mean, I know.
flash, but it would just sort of open gates wherever it wanted to, crawl out, go back in. And like Elle
Oh,
was
that's
able
right.
to
It
do
could
that.
come
at-
through
Yeah.
the
Elle was able to
bedroom
do that at the
wall,
beginning.
ceiling.
Concealed and
Yeah,
everything.
and is that because there was already a gate open?
A
and
nearby
so
gate?
There was sort of like a permeable surface, or
Well,
do
to me,
Demogorgons just have that ability?
It was the status of their dimension was the lines were being blurred,
Yeah.
like
Right.
In every way.
Yeah.
Yeah, consider the shape of a funnel. At the bottom of the funnel is the actual gate, but
love
as
this.
it all swoops down into it, and if you're Hawkins, you're closer to the bottom hole of the funnel.
I
So
don't
that
care if
makes
you have a
physics
point,
bit
I'm just
different.
Funnel
imagining
theory,
the
I like
funnel.
it.
Can we
the
CGI funnel? Ooh,
And
yes,
then
here we go.
you pour.
You pour funnel. Can we get a straw? So you're the flea. And then, So maybe because of close proximity within a radius, you can bend through bedroom walls and change
Totally.
Christmas lights.
Okay, so yeah, the Russians just have to be really careful about opening that rift, otherwise their Demogorgon's gonna go bye-bye.
Do you think the Demogorgon will have caused Chernobyl in season 4? All the 3 Mile
Yeah.
Island?
Like the HBO series.
Crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crossover now.
A little disappointed
you
Demogorgon didn't show up in
you
Chernobyl.
didn't see the after credit scene for Chernobyl?
Actually,
Like that.
fun fact, in Chernobyl, if you watch it, in the back of every scene, there's actually a little Demogorgon. It's an Easter egg.
Then you get spotted.
It's just a crew member visible as a Demogorgon or whatever.
With a puppet.
With terrible skin.
Eric has a pet peeve about depicting time travel or space travel through wormholes by using a folded piece of paper and sticking a pencil through it. How'd you feel about this example of the dimensions that Alexei was giving
With
using the
Straw.
pen paper?
And, well, at least he didn't fold it. That's always a silly way to do it.
It wasn't into just a piece of paper though. It was into
Later,
a fry
right?
Carton
canister.
and then use the wrapper or the burger. Just use new. I always love like new creative solutions to do it. Like let's see or maybe have a scene that's just meta about like no one has a straw. No one has a
I think,
pencil.
I think
so I
the
need a
fun-
pencil. That's pretty funny.
I think the fun thing was how obviously incapable that straw was of penetrating anything. Because, like, that was one of those Slurpee straws, and they've got that fun little scooper down on the bottom, and it's just so hard to stick stuff.
Listen, it happens to a lot of guys.
And
Well, when you get
strawberry
on the
does
Cooper at
not
the
taste
tip.
like cherry. Just putting that out there.
They're just red.
They're
Oh,
so
you know what
different.
is like cherry,
They
though?
taste like red.
They taste like I love the taste of red.
The flavor chemical responsible for cherry flavor is the same as for almond flavor, but when it's in lower concentrations, it's almond. When it's in higher concentrations, it's cherry.
Is it blood?
It's blood. Yeah.
Okay.
What is the Demogorgon in Russia gonna do?
Answered.
okay.
Asked
Right.
and answered, my friend.
Okay.
I think we'll find out that the Demogorgon can appear in different points around the world, causing disasters that we
But he
knew
was in a cage. There's bars.
Right, but physics.
We all saw that Demogorgon coming, right?
The Demogorgon is going to be like a warhound, right? And they're going to use it
Define term. Highlight.
it's
define.
just literally like I don't know. They're gonna use it as like a weapon, basically.
Yeah, sure. Ooh, what about?
It's gonna
I'm sorry.
eat
Just
people.
Warhound sounds really cool.
It does sound really cool. I've been
about-
listening to too much metal. I think.
Think about Hunger Games with those like special
Already
DNA
taken care
dog
of. I
guys.
think about Hunger Games constantly.
Yeah, but like maybe they're gonna like try to do some genetic experiments.
Tracker jackers.
Yeah, tracker jackers.
All right,
Okay.
guys.
Oh no, I'm thinking. What about aliens? Like doing aliens
Ooh.
with Demogorgons is the name of the
They did
season.
that.
Yeah.
They did that. That
Demo
was season
dogs.
two.
Yeah. Well, they were demo dogs and they were not full Demogorgons.
Can I throw out a
Yeah.
theory real quick that I had originally in this last season?
Pause it.
Okay.
And we'll do it right after we just say thank you to the people that pay for the show. Rogue Theory is brought to you by some very friendly sponsors. It's summertime, so you gotta get that summer haircut, your summer outfit, and best of all, you gotta get your summer-themed underwear. MeUndies has the coolest summer designs, watermelons, fireworks, pool floaties. My underwear's living it up right now. Seriously, I mean it. I got a bunch of this underwear recently, and it is my current favorite underwear. Not just because it looks pretty good on, but also it's just the softest freaking underwear I've ever had. I guess that's because their scientists at MeUndies created micromodal, some sort of high-tech, super soft fabric. It is 3 times softer than cotton. Whatever it is, it made these scientists my favorite of all the underwear scientists that I know. MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners. For any first-time purchasers, when you purchase any MeUndies product, you get 15% off and free shipping. Get 15% off a pair of the most comfortable undies you will ever put on. Also, they do pajama pants, which I am literally wearing right now. To get your 15% off your first pair, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/Rockstars. That's MeUndies.com/Rockstars. Okay, it's 1 a.m. and you're halfway through the new season of Stranger Things, and those waffle cravings just kicked in. But you don't gotta leave your couch, because you can just Postmate it. Postmate is your year-round personal food delivery, grocery delivery, whatever kind of delivery service you need, they're it. Anything you're craving, Postmates can deliver. They're the largest on-demand network in the US, and they offer delivery from pretty much every restaurant, grocery store, anything else you could possibly want or need, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Postmates will bring it to you within the hour. No more trips to the store. You don't even need to know where the store is. Postmates will deliver anything to you, including this pad thai, which I am literally eating right now. Seriously. Download the free app for iOS or Android, browse local restaurants and businesses, and track your delivery in real time. For a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. So to start your free deliveries, download the app and use code ROCKSTARS. That's code ROCKSTARS for $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app. Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it. Download Postmates and save with code ROCKSTARS. Cool, we're back. And yes, I'm wearing MeUndies right now. And also, Angelica has a theory about this past season of Stranger Things.
I do. And maybe we can tie it into the next one. But if we all remember, and whenever the Mind Flayer took over, like possessed somebody, essentially they started eating chemicals and fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
My theory was that the Mind Flayer was going to go to the fun fair and like blow it up.
Because fertilizer, right?
Fertilizer's made primarily with
Yes.
nitrogen. Nitrogen is also used in a lot of explosives.
And I'm sure assorted chemicals as well.
Yeah.
Did you want to finish?
The Haber process, which
Oh.
is used to ground nitrogen, was originally invented to make explosives, but then was later used to spark agriculture with fertilizer.
Okay,
Spark
you are now
agriculture.
you are on a CIA list now. So welcome.
Don't know why I know that.
So maybe its plans got foiled, and it was like, all right, I just got to go after 11 right now. But I think maybe this could tie in if, say, the Russians opened up another rift and then it came back out. It's almost like it's like directly a war reference, right?
Was it
Nuclear
explained
bomb.
why they were consuming? Was it to dematerialize their body and make them easier into goop? At the end?
That is one theory that I've heard, but my theory is way cooler. And
I
more
agree.
Explosive.
100% agree.
I'm just so glad, speaking of explosions, the people didn't blow up the way the rats did.
I mean, they basically
disappointed.
did.
They melted,
didn't.
which was a lot more palatable for me.
Man, it was
So-
Cronenberg.
melted
So
eight
Cronenberg.
cops, Yeah.
Yeah, but it was honestly the creature design, even though it was so disgusting, I think that's a testament to how original it was, that we
Yeah.
haven't seen that of just like, yeah, what if reformed people, bones, teeth,
God.
like it's literally, I mean, not to be just morose or anything, but that's literally like what a tumor is. It's like a mismatch of just like genetic code, just
Yeah.
building random things,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what these people
Yeah.
became. Just these.
I
That's
love the
so
leftover,
good.
like actual anatomy, like the rat tail being dragged along with the blob thing. Very cool.
There was
That's
a
what
moment
that
where I was like,
was.
did I see a finger in
I'm
there,
so
like in the
sad.
mush?
Did I see a finger?
I
Yeah,
love
see
yeah.
a finger.
I love rats. I just
Yeah,
love
that was also like
rats
really
so
sad too. I had to
much.
look away for
Yeah,
those things.
but like the monster was rad. Like when I first saw the monster, it's like, oh, cool, some sort of new melty monster. And then like the end of episode 3, I think, where it's like, oh, that's the shape of the Mind Flayer. I felt like that was
taking
really
a
cool
corporeal
reveal.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, Spider-Man. Far from home.
Okay.
I couldn't get through without laughing. It's such a funny movie. No, we really talked about it a lot last week, but we talked a lot about things going on in it. And it's okay if you want to share a little bit about that. But Eric and I were talking a lot earlier about where we think it's going, not just with Spider-Man 3, but also just in general into Phase 4. So I just want to hear some rogue theories about what you think the next Spider-Man movie is going to be about, what's been set up. Are we going to get a Sinister Six movie?
Are you guys ready for my bit?
I'm ready.
I don't know. Is it tongue
not with that. Yeah,
related?
not with that.
I've got a pretty big bit that I've been pumping up with these guys.
Okay, I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So
Let's freeze right there and go to another ad read. No, I'm kidding.
So the first movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Second movie, Spider-Man: Far From Home. I'm looking for a trilogy where all 3 titles have home in them. Third movie, Spider-Man: Lucy, I'm home. It's all black and white.
Not Home Alone?
Oh, shit, that's so much better. God damn it.
Or Spider-Man can't go home again. Spider-Man homeless.
Who's Lucy in this scenario?
Lucille Ball.
Oh, it's still Lucille
Yes,
Ball.
it's still Lucille Ball.
Right.
But, like, they just redo I Love Lucy with Tom Holland as Desi Arnaz.
Also, was that your Desi Arnaz?
Can we have Lucille
That
Ball?
was my Desi Arnaz. It was a good Desi
Dial
Arnaz.
it back a little bit, maybe, just to be safe.
Yeah, debatable.
Is Lucy the new AI interface, right? What would it be
okay.
standing for? Illuminated, unbodied,
Lucky you
coupled
can't
youth.
Yield?
kill.
Wait, what?
You're spelling lucky
I don't
now.
like the way this is going now. I'm like, I'm trying to
You're
work
just
on
mad
it.
at your own
I was trying
lack
to
of
think of the
spelling
start.
Lucy.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
okay. Wait, I thought we were doing. Oh, I did Lucky.
Yeah.
Why am I like this?
I asked myself that all the time. What's
And
wrong
the
with
audience
me?
is really enjoying this, or
Yeah.
you're not? Okay,
What?
let's dive into Spider-Man 3.
All right, so we know at the end.
There's a Lucy option.
There's a
We'll
Lucy
acknowledge
option.
it's the most likely. But
Yeah.
aside,
We know at the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home, the post-credit scene, J. Jonah Jameson
Oh,
is back,
God.
played by J.K.
Yes.
Simmons. The writers have said that they want J.K. Simmons to come back in the third one, but we're still waiting to see how well this does, because you were telling me beforehand that apparently Marvel and Sony have this deal to where if these Spider-Man movies do not make more than $1 billion or something...
this movie specifically, if it does not make more than $1 billion, the deal is negated and all the rights go back to Sony.
Right. So I think a lot
currently
of the
at
people,
600
they
million.
can't start writing it because they don't know what other MCU things they might not have access to. But I think one thing they do always have access to is the Sinister Six, and that is still a Sony property. All the Spider-Man villains are owned by Sony, and if anything, Marvel has to ask for rights and has to come up with a negotiated deal in order to use those in these movies. So I think now's the time to finally have the Sinister Six have some kind of role. And the fact that you've set up J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson to come back and turning Spider-Man into a public menace, Peter Parker into a public menace, I think we don't know everything that happened in the first act of this movie. Apparently, Spider-Man had all these deleted scenes where he was beating up the Manfredi mafia organization. Silvio Manfredi is Silvermane, and we also have Adrian Toomes. We have Scorpion in this universe. There's even a setup possibly with like Flash Thompson's mom has some kind of interesting thing going on with her. Could she be established as a Norman or Norma Osborn figure?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of villains that are set up in this world that they could bring together, have 6 of them be the Sinister Six in this version of the Spider-Man movies.
My only reason why, I'm very excited to see that movie in the same way that I was very excited to see the Avengers, but 10 years after Iron Man came out and not, 2 years after it came out.
Yeah.
I don't want them to set up that many more villains in one movie. For instance, so my pitch, I really do like the idea of Kraven being the villain. They've talked about how it's going to be someone we haven't seen before, but also if you go back to the really old school comics, the villains, they kind of like later on they kind of became better threats. For instance, Doc Ock is like kind of a decent threat, but not amazing. Not in the way that now he's kind of maybe the most iconic, even beyond Green Goblin. But Green Goblin also is not like that big a threat at the beginning. But Kraven, he plays the idea of the most dangerous game, which is the idea of hunting man, and he's just trying to murder Peter Parker, even in like the original classic comics, like, and treat him like prey. And he was really effective in this like creepy way that like isn't just about explosions or whatever, right? It's like you have like a sniper on you at all times. For all you know, that to me is like a very different take. When he was saying we're gonna do something we haven't done in Spider-Man before, I thought maybe that
super dark.
I mean, I have a thought of just that, like, Mysterio, at least in the illusion he was creating, was a big villain. Like, that was a big villain, and like I think Spider-Man has to go bigger, you know, like with like a series or with like a set of movies. Like, I think you have to continue to increase the stakes. Like, he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and now he's global. Like, I think we need to see Spider-Man in space. And I think that we might need to see maybe a non-Spider-Man villain in the next one, like maybe something crossing him over and linking him deeper into the MCU.
Well, I mean, they definitely have been trying to do that throughout all these other movies and kind of establish that. What I'll give you on that is that to me does live up to this idea that Spider-Man is basically an Avenger now. He's, in some ways, one of the most senior ones, considering they lost a lot of the senior ones. But I like when they stay with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And to me, I love raising the stakes rather than this way, more like in here, like it's things that hit him that much harder, which is why I talked about One More Day, the comic storyline where Aunt May dies. I mean, like things happening within that. We also still haven't met Gwen Stacy, right?
Not in the MCU.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of like personal hits that he can take. So imagine, there's an assassin. I mean, that's mixing two different storylines if I get Craven. But yeah, some sort of assassin story, and it's killing especially post his identity being revealed. Now we know who his aunt is, we know who his classmates are, we know who his friends are, and they just popping him off like
everyone's in trouble.
Like that's a pretty terrifying villain to me, even though it's very street level.
You want Spider-Man to go in a really dark direction, I can tell.
So dark.
Well, okay, so just going off of the neighborhood thing, because with the space theory here, they straight up alluded to that in Far From Home, right? They mentioned, I think Nick Fury mentioned
You've
about
been to space.
You've been to space.
B-word.
And he straight up said,
We're not saying that one.
Yeah, he's like, but I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That was my best impression of a topic.
It was very Desi Arnaz.
Thank you. But I love that theory, Eric. But what if we have Mysterio come back, but it's someone else, right? Because he's all the gear, He's
I
just
don't
gear.
think we're done
There
with
have been other
Mysterio.
Mysterios,
Definitely not.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
As Mysterio.
Ooh.
What?
I like that.
Andrew Garfield? What?
Yeah.
Bring them all back.
Yeah, if there's any poor imitation of Jake Gyllenhaal, by the way. Ooh, that's really mean to Tobey Maguire. But doesn't he kind of look like he's like, I'm his brother.
With the same facial hair and everything?
Didn't they do a movie called Brothers where they play brothers?
Exactly.
Yeah, they
Perfect.
did.
Yeah, there you go. So we're just mixing all of these storylines.
You know what's darker than Venom as well? Like that is something we know Sony. If Sony does fully retain the rights to Spider-Man, I think this movie's going to clear $1 billion easy.
Yeah.
But I know Sony's eager to get another Venom movie in the works, and I don't know if you can see an exact crossover with Tom Hardy's take on Venom and Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man.
I want that to be the version because that's the best way to put. That's what Civil War has going for it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Put the characters that you understand both their motivations and put them in a conflict with each other.
Yeah.
You know, like Venom's dark. But I feel like something that was cool about Far From Home is that, like, Mysterio, at least in my mind, is kind of a tacky villain. Like, he's kind of
he's a showman. He's a charlatan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's built into it.
Yeah, that's
but
it's a layer of
He's
it.
got a fishbowl on his head.
Exactly. But they made him horrifying. Like, I may not be the biggest nerd in the room, and my first introduction to Mysterio was
I was about to say, speak for yourself.
Kevin Smith is standing over there.
Yeah.
My first introduction to Mysterio was in the Spider-Man 2 video game for the GameCube.
Yeah.
And he was just like an after boss, sort of. And it was like, what is this goofy shit? What is going on? But he was horrifying in this movie.
Yeah.
So you need to read Old Man Logan.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And then you'll be like, oh damn.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Mysterio is a monster.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also just like a really good story to read.
Well, and I remember in the animated series, Mysterio is kind of one of the goofier ones too. I had that feeling too. But yeah, after seeing some of the crap he does in the comics,
doesn't help.
horrible.
Yeah, I was talking about this last week. The MCU does that so well, where they're like, "Wait, these are your powers, or good guy or bad guy, then the logical conclusion of that is like much scarier than you would think. So like if you can actually create these illusions, you could do anything really. It sounds like our votes are: you want Sinister Six.
Yeah, I'm dying for Sinister Six.
I'm into just a real dark place where like Peter's friends are murdered, and then you're going for space.
I'll stick with my first one.
Which was
Lucy, I'm Home.
Oh, damn it!
Okay.
Damn it. I like that you took away the
I could see Lucille
accent.
Ball as Doc Ock, honestly.
Don't support
She's not alive anymore, right? Lucille Ball?
Doc Ock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but neither.
She is not. No.
Oh.
No, I'm so sorry to break it to you.
Look at the
10
Star
years
Wars
later.
movies.
Neither is Carrie
Look at the
Fisher.
exactly.
Just go watch Star Wars.
So
You'll see
so
Lucille
we're-
Ball all over the
CG VFX is just gonna come in and make Lucille Ball. Okay, I like it.
Oh, man.
Very big budget.
They don't even have they'd have to reference the poor quality film that they shot of Lucille Ball. Sure, I want to see it.
I love it. I love it.
All right, guys. We'll just say it's probably given. It's gonna make it past the 1 billion.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
so.
Right.
It's
And then
believe the-
Toby's gonna
well
come
on
in
its
and
way.
he's gonna want in on it.
I believe the last 8 Marvel films have cleared $1 billion. So I'm not super worried, even though it's only at 600 million, and that'd be terrible. Hey, I want to talk about another nerd property. We don't actually get to this one very often on this channel, but it's Star Trek. Specifically, I mean, probably, in my opinion, hot take, but not really that hot, the best captain, Picard. So
He
you
is
guys,
the best captain.
So you guys know that he has his own show coming out. They just dropped this sick poster. If you're listening to the podcast, it's an old man and a dog next to each
Whoa.
other. But imagine it's real cool.
Wow, look at that poster. That's
Yeah,
cool.
look at that dog.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dog.
Look
What a
at that
good
man.
So my question for you guys. Well, one, I mean, if you have thoughts on Picard specifically and what you're looking for from this this series, then great. I'd love to hear them. I'm a big Picard fan. But if you're not, what other character do we need to go back to like 30 years ago and bring back on their own spin-off series? So either of those.
I mean, I'm just hoping Picard will be similar, but I think he's quoted to have said that Picard's going to be different, and it's, 20 years later? How much later?
In real life?
No,
I mean,
the show is set. The Picard
gotcha,
series
yeah.
is set 20 years, I think, after TNG ends, The Next Generation. And Picard is the best captain, just getting that out there. But I'm not sure. Maybe they'll have the Q in there. Fingers crossed.
I kind of hope,
wow.
personally, honestly, that they like just start kind of a bunch of new
Yeah.
characters and villains, because if they
Don't
stick
want to get too fan servicey.
more that like what Next Generation doesn't have going for it to me is like the villains are, I don't know, they're like a little like cheesy, honestly.
They're TV villains, yeah.
I really like
mean-
his Borg storyline
Yeah.
personally, even though a lot of people hate that. And I like they run into a lot of like political issues, but they also run into a lot of things that the characters in Star Trek themselves, the planets that they come from, are often putting them in a difficult place of being members of the Federation. Like there's like a little bit more complicated storylines. But if they're gonna do, the new Star Trek films did a really good job of kind of reinventing these races to have. Yeah, I don't know. There was something always just like a little weird to me about the way they depicted alien races on all the shows until the recent
Yeah.
ones.
You mean Riker hitting on every one of them? And
That's the only thing that felt right, actually.
that was the
Yeah.
only thing that felt right. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I like this.
I mean,
this
if
is my favorite
humans,
part.
if
Love stories.
if humans went to space, they'd try to have sex with everything.
I mean, for science.
For science,
Right,
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 for
yeah.
science.
I
Yeah.
don't know about that.
It's a fact.
Okay.
You know who I think would be dope to see like have their own spin-off series? Do y'all remember Deep Space Nine, like the symbiote character? I want to say Curzon Dax.
Okay.
Don't look at me.
Dax
the
is
biggest nerd in the room.
so
Yeah.
Dax is a character
Yeah.
that has what's the
There's sort of like a slug in their belly.
it's a slug
Yeah.
and it basically is like a symbiotic
Yeah.
Oh, so you basically
relationship
want
in
the
the
slug
body.
to have.
their
Yeah, I want the
mind.
slug. I want the slug back because I mean, it sort of was then, and I think it definitely could be now, like an allegory for like gender transition. Because in the beginning of Deep Space Nine, Curzon Dax was introduced to a character that Dax had known from like a previous host, and
It was an older man.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was an older man, and now Curzon Dax is a young woman, and each time the symbiote passes on to another host, like the first part of the name is the name of the host that they originally had, and Dax is Dax the slug. And the old Klingon guy was like, oh, like, I don't remember what the original name was, but it was like, oh, Bozo Dax, my old friend. And Curzon Dax is like, actually, Curzon Dax. And the Klingon guy is immediately like, Curzon Dax, my old friend. And it was just like so cool to see a Klingon be so accepting of our trans friends.
Okay, that's beautiful. So in this series then, every season does it change bodies then? Just new actor completely?
No, I think that throughout Deep Space Nine, it was just Curzon Dax.
But for your
series. No, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Like if we could see like jumping through generations with Dax and like meeting new hosts and like adapting to their lives and problems. Like that sounds pretty cool to me.
Cool. Eric, do you have one?
Okay.
I mean, you and I love Lost, and a lot of people like to shit on it now, but like, man, there's some good like spin-off characters. Richard Alpert is the one that jumps out to me. That's the guy who never ages. He's on the island forever and ever and ever. He's the guardian of the island, and they gave him one backstory episodes. Nelson.
Is that the Eyeliner guy?
Yeah, Eyeliner guy. He is in the Dark Knight movies.
Right.
He is awesome. He was like my favorite character on the show, and they give him one episode where you see him. He's kind of like cursed to be the caretaker of the island, and he has to like greet all the people who get like attracted and stranded on the island, and has to kind of guide them to their spiritual journey. And so you kind of have a perfect setup for different people to have come and gone from the island, and he has to kind of explain to them the weird physics of it. And when you have your 100 episodes right there,
is it a period show?
Eric's point,
every period show.
Whoa.
You jump around through time. He's like a Scott
Ours
Bakula.
is kind of the same.
Yeah,
but Eric's point is we have to go back.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, a return to Lost is not a bad idea, especially considering like a lot of people still are like, so what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more story there.
There's a lot of questions still.
Yeah.
Would you call it Lost again?
Found?
That's not
Lost and Found.
Yeah. My pitch is for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I know that they're making a remake. We'll see. But just go, and especially since Jessica Jones is going off the air or off the internet stream, take Faith. Faith the Vampire Slayer. Such a great character that, you know, has the great redemption arc, but is kind of like, yeah, my job is to kill vampires and demons, but also like I'm not a good person either. And I don't know, I was always charmed by Eliza Dushku, and just seeing her like now. I also love the idea of the aging Slayers, because famously in the lore of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a Slayer never really lives into their 20s normally. So to see one that's like I got a kid, and like, you know, they're keeping the kids in the car or whatever while like she's
got
like
the
killing
van.
or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, or something like just like an aging vampire slayer to see that it's a little bit of that trope has existed for male characters a number of times, where it's just kind of like the grizzled old vet who comes back and he's still like he's a great shot or
the
something.
Unforgiven story.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just like, you know, I feel like Eliza Dushku could actually pull off a badass version of that too.
And she fights like vampire suburban moms too. So it's like Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah, she kills the people in Santa Clarita Diet.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
that
just like
version.
a suburban mom, like, just a mom vampire show. I love it.
Mom anything I'll watch, is my point.
Yeah.
So guys, we're wrapping things up, but we always do with a rapid fire round of rogue questions. These are questions that were written for us, but we have not seen these, so we'll see how they turn out. After Homecoming and Far From Home, damn it.
Lucy, I'm home.
What name with home would you pitch for the next Spider-Man movie?
I nailed this. I nailed it.
So aside from Lucy from Home, what else we got?
Home wrecked.
Home Alone.
Home Alone.
Homeward Bound, they're all dogs.
Ooh.
Home wrecked. Yeah, I'm down
Spider
with that.
Dog.
Yeah. All right, fine. It was a stupid Lucy. One wins on that. All right. A Burbank Baskin Robbins. So Burbank is a very fancy area of LA. I'm just kidding.
Never been
We're in
there.
it right now. A Burbank Baskin Robbins has been turned into a Scoops Ahoy pop-up. Scoops Ahoy, the ice cream shop with the great hair.
Stranger
They
Things.
have
I want to
a
look at that boat thing.
just
HMS
look good.
Butterscotch.
They have a Demogorgon sundae.
Gross.
What should be in a Demogorgon sundae? Things like maybe upside down
Rat
cake.
meat.
Rat meat.
Oh.
Okay, so
course.
your version is
Fertilizer.
like fertilizer.
Pieces of barb.
Just reminding you, this is just an actual Baskin Robbins down the
Yeah.
street.
You know,
but
Okay.
rat
Okay.
poison.
Pieces
or
of
Well,
rat-
you could.
different take, edible flowers.
Oh, that's nice. Hey, are
Why,
those
though?
things that are
'Cause
from
the
like
face-
orchids or whatever? Are those edible? Those flowers.
I mean,
Probably
anything's
shouldn't
edible
eat an
if you're
orchid.
committed.
If it comes out of
Somebody-
the earth, it's edible.
no, that has led you astray
That's
a number of
false.
times. It comes on
Have you
dinner
seen
plates
Twilight?
sometimes, and I saw someone go, these are edible, right? And he just ate it in front of
And
me.
he died.
And no, I didn't see him again. But I am wondering now. Every time I see them, I'm like, I want to know. All right. Weird anecdote. Build-A-Bear is starting a record label. Build-A-Bear is starting a record label. What is your teddy bear themed band name? For instance, Bear Jovi,
The
Blink 180 Poo.
the bare naked bears.
That's pretty good.
Bare naked bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else got one?
Oh gosh, I
Bear
have
Supply?
in my head. Oh, Bear Supply.
Grizzly Roth.
Yeah.
The Bearborn Toxic event.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, we're getting too
Black
into
Bear Sabbath.
We're getting
That was
deep.
deep.
don't touch
This one's
that.
mine.
Don't touch it.
A video of a family fist fight in Disneyland
Whoa.
went viral
Yeah.
this week.
The aristocrats.
What would make you punch your mom while you're in Toontown?
Oh dear
Oh.
God.
What would make you turn on your family about a visit to
Toontown?
Disneyland?
If someone took away my Dole Whip, because
Yeah,
oh baby,
definitely.
baby, have you had that Dole Whip?
They don't let me get a giant pickle. God damn it, Mom.
I don't get it.
You don't like giant pickles?
Did they have giant
This
pickles there?
reference. Oh
You
wait,
can get a
sorry.
giant pickle
I
at
thought you guys were
Disneyland.
like doing a scene about Dole Whip and pickles.
They're
need a
two
giant
different
pickle.
things.
I dip my pickles in my Dole Whip.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't
to get a
when I
picture-
dip, you dip, you dip.
To get a picture with like one of the probably like costumed people or the real
That's
life.
all it would take for you to punch
Yeah.
your mom?
Oh yeah.
Just
Mom, get out of my photo. Come on, Mom.
Winner. All
Photos
right.
have consequences.
The Ninja Turtle comics added a female Ninja Turtle named Jenica. But shouldn't she have an artist name? Which I would argue, like
I
there are artist girls named Jenica that ride, on skateboards or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll say
I know her.
Is she a
you know
I
DJ?
met her in Chicago. Yeah, Jenica Onakoi. Anyways.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
you dropped this name.
So what would be a better female Ninja Turtle name?
It's an artist.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Rafaela.
Beyonce.
Leonardo.
Beyonce.
Beyonce's
Yeah.
song.
Leonardina.
A female
Oh,
painter.
O'Keeffe.
Have to be a painter.
Georgia O'Keeffe.
O'Keeffe.
Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia just straight
Georgia
up.
would be great.
Well, that's kind of fun. if she's
Georgia,
got, like,
get out of
Southern
that
accent.
sewer.
She's always just sort of doing innuendos.
Yeah.
Who's the other
okay.
person that Georgia brings along that
It's her-
yells at her to get
it's
out
her
of the
sassy
sewer?
Southern friend.
It's her Splinter or
Yeah,
whatever. It's like, here's how you buy, Georgia. All right, Disney has had to recall plush toy versions of Forky from Toy Story 4 due to a choking hazard.
Oh no.
Eric, why do you keep trying to eat Forky?
To dislodge all the other Forkies that are being.
Yeah,
You gotta knock it loose.
Send one in after the
one's
last
more, yeah, it
one.
is.
Yeah.
It's the shape of something that's supposed to go in your mouth.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Scoopy.
Yeah,
Which Toy Story character? It says, "Would you prefer to choke on?" Which is a weird question.
Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
potato.
Easy.
Maybe like Slinky, because then you can,
Mr.
like
Potato Head
sword
because
it,
he's
like,
daddy.
This metal blade
Sword
in your
swallowing it
throat,
back
and you
out.
have like this thick ass potato in your head.
I'm a size queen. What do you want?
Eric,
I want those monkeys on a chain, right? The barrel monkeys.
in a barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barrel of
Okay.
monkeys.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Because they're most
a
swallowable.
marble.
yeah. I'll say
Can we
Woody
get
is
a
an
marble?
obvious choice, right?
You're
going for the
Obvious.
All right.
naughty.
Guys, that's it for this show. When I run out of cards, the show ends. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for being here. Of course, we got our own Erik Voss. Eric, what are we covering this week on the channel?
Okay, we have some more. We have the Stranger Things breakdown. You can watch it right now, and we have some other Spider-Man theories that are coming out. Comic-Con is coming up soon.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's going to be a lot because we got Marvel coming back to Hall H, and it's going to be a lot for me to do. I would love some help, so hopefully we can get some people to help me out with that. But yeah, it's gonna be a crazy couple weeks, folks. Yeah.
All right, so you won't be sleeping anytime soon, and that's great. But what do you got going on?
Well, right now I'm on MTV's Are You the One? It is
Can
the
you see it right now?
Are you the
Oh
one?
yeah. It's every Wednesday at 9/8 Central. It's the world's first sexually fluid reality dating show.
Interesting.
Um,
The show itself.
Yeah, the show itself is into some
fluid.
freaky
Yeah.
stuff. And besides that, check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Danny Prikaz, DANNYPRIKAZ.
Great. All right.
I'm sure it's spelled right here, right now. Sorry.
Probably here.
Ah, shoot.
But you
No,
look
I
like a
missed it.
fool now. Yeah.
Aw, it's okay, it's
Angelica,
okay. Play it
where
off.
can we find you?
So I'm Angelica Tray, and you can find me on most social platforms at AYYTRAE. That's A-Tray. I'm on Twitch, and I too am going to Comic-Con, but I'm going to be Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm excited for it. So, yeah.
Well, enjoy yourself. I'm not going to be going. I
You're
have to
not
stay in an
going?
office and just watch trailers as they come out.
Oh,
But
no.
I prefer
he
it
will
that
be
way.
dressed as
mean-
Vision, though.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like crowds.
So we're kind of like themed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, guys. I've been Filup Molina. Find me at Filup Molina. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yay! This is the part where we get to talk about stuff that they don't get to hear.
Finally.
Yeah.